The Oscars are right around the corner, and I have my picks for who should be nominated in some of the major categories right now. Hello everybody, it is a very exciting time of year for me. It is Academy Award time, and even though I don't always agree with the results, the names of the winners still go down in the history books, and I'm usually happy with some or very rarely all of the winners. This has been a very unusual Oscar year. First of all, the show is happening way later than usual. The Academy Awards have actually been moving earlier, but they're going to be held in late April because of the pandemic and everything else. The eligibility windows were stretched out, so there's already so much with this Academy Awards season that is unusual, but there are still some great movies that are contending for the awards. When I was growing up, one of my favorite shows to watch right around Academy Awards time was Siskel and Ebert's special. They would always have this thing called Memo to the Academy, where they would talk to the Academy and say, here are some performances that I think that you should consider. And I've always been an Oscar guy. I always like to see, who's going to win, who's leading, that person might get nominated, that person might not be. And I also got to carry this over when we were at Screen Junkies. I helped to organize every year the video where we would all get into a room and talk and come up with our Academy Award nominations. Sadly, I don't have my friends from Screen Junkies here to hash this out, but I still wanted to do this because it's one of my favorite things to do, to go over the big award nominees and present to you who I would nominate in some of the major categories. We're going to go over 6 big ones: Best Actor and Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress, and then Best Director and Best Picture. I'm going to give you the 5 that I would have nominated in every category, and then I'm also going to throw at you who I think is actually going to be nominated when everything is announced next Monday. I've got a little trophy here. This is an award for Best Boyfriend that was strangely given to me by the Academy. I don't know why, but I'm always very appreciative. It's a little smaller than a regular Oscar, but this is also a bit less prestigious than winning a real Oscar. So without further ado, let's get to my picks in the first category we're going to talk about, which is Best Supporting Actor. This category is always a little tough to parse because you have to sit and wonder, well, what makes a supporting performance versus what makes a lead performance? And studios usually play around with this metric to try to improve one person's odds over getting nominated. So the only guideline that I have was that I checked to see where the studios are nominating different performers. And there is one name that actually would definitely have been amongst my picks in this category, which is Kingsley Ben-Adir from One Night in Miami. He plays Malcolm X, and I loved his performance. He would have been amongst my 5 nominees for Best Supporting Actor, but Amazon decided that they would put Kingsley Ben-Adir up for Best Actor. So he went into the hopper for Best Actor. He was not in this race. Other than that, that's pretty much the only rules that I had. It just has to be actors who were eligible. So let's check out my 5 nominees for Best Supporting Actor and then break down the 5 that I think the Academy will recognize. First on my list for his role in the trial of the Chicago 7, Sacha Baron Cohen. Next, as Chairman Fred Hampton in Judas and the Black Messiah, Daniel Kaluuya. In my 3rd spot, another cast member from the trial of the Chicago 7, as Bobby Seale, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. A cast member from One Night in Miami that did make the cut as singer Sam Cooke, Leslie Odom Jr. And finally, as the head of a substance abuse treatment facility for the deaf, Paul Raci in The Sound of Metal. Most of these names don't differ too much from the names that are expected to be called next Monday. I think the one big departure is Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who is considered a long shot at best for his role in the trial of the Chicago 7, but I found his performance to be one of my favorite in the film. He's not technically one of the 7 who's on trial, but he has such a powerful through line in the story, and I feel like sometimes the Academy is reticent to nominate multiple cast members, especially in one category from the same movie. You see it every once in a while, but it's pretty rare. Usually they'll find one person to kind of throw everything into. But I thought that Yahya Abdul-Mateen II was great in that movie, and I think he should be considered up there with everybody else. So those are my 5. The 5 that I think will get nominated on Monday are Sacha Baron Cohen for the trial of the Chicago 7, who I also picked, Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah, who I also picked. This is a long shot one because sometimes that 5th slot can be a bit of a wild card category. I think that Minari is peaking at the right time, so this is probably not going to happen, but I'm going to go ahead and make a bold prediction and say that Alan Kim the young boy from Minari will secure a surprise 5th spot on the Best Supporting Actor list. I just think they're coming on strong. He won a Critics' Choice Award. It was a great speech. I just have a weird feeling. And then the last 2 nominees are also ones that I picked: Leslie Odom Jr. from One Night in Miami and Paul Raci for The Sound of Metal. Let's move on to Best Supporting Actress. These are the 5 nominees that I would pick if I were the Academy. First up, as Borat's daughter in Borat's subsequent movie film, Maria Bakalova. Next is Ellen Burstyn in the Netflix film Pieces of a Woman. Olivia Colman as Anthony Hopkins' daughter in The Father is my 3rd pick. Swanky from Nomadland, one of these supporting roles, again, that does not have much buzz, is my pick in the 4th spot. And in my 5th spot is somebody that I've been rooting for since I first saw the movie and I thought might be a long shot, but it looks like she very well might get this nomination: Yoo Jung-yoon from Minari. Most of these aren't big surprises. I think that Ellen Burstyn has sort of fallen out of the race, but I thought that she was incredible in Pieces of a Woman. I just think that that movie peaked at the wrong time. You see that a lot in the Oscar race. I wouldn't be surprised to see her nominated. The one that's really from out on left field, I think that most people would think of, is Swanky from Nomadland. She is one of the people in the cast who is actually a real person. She lives this nomadic lifestyle. This is something that Chloe Zhao did with the film. She pretty much embedded Frances McDormand in with these different people. And I just think it doesn't matter to me that she's a real person. And I think maybe that's why it's not getting a whole lot of buzz. And also she doesn't have a lot of screen time. But when I think about the movies that I've seen, and in particular, when I think about Nomadland, which I thought was one of the better movies of 2020, Swanky is the cast member that I think of. She is one of the standout performances in any film that I saw last year. So that's why Swanky gets a nod for me in the Best Supporting Actress category. Here are the 5 that I'm predicting, and I'm also predicting a couple of wild cards because the supporting categories in particular are a little hard to predict. You never know when somebody's going to throw in a curveball. The 5 that I've picked are Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy. This is not a movie that has really on its own any kind of award season buzz, but the Academy Award voters love Glenn Close. So I say that she's going to get in the category. I do think that Olivia Colman is going to get the nomination for The Father. The Mauritanian and Jodie Foster, another movie that I think is peaking at the right time. So I think that Jodie Foster is going to get that nomination. Amanda Seyfried was at one time the front runner. I don't know if she's still the front runner, but I think she's still going to get the nomination for Mank. And then I think that Yoo Jung-yoon is going to get that 5th spot for Minari, but this is a very unpredictable category. So we'll see. This may very well not be the 5. I didn't go with all chalk for the ones that I thought would actually get them because there are always some surprises and wild cards. I think Jodie Foster, probably the biggest long shot in my picks, followed by Glenn Close. It may very well be the more conventional wisdom, but that's how I'm calling the race for Best Supporting Actress. Let's move on to the Best Actor category, and these are the 5 actors that I would pick if I were the Academy. Riz Ahmed in The Sound of Metal, one of my favorite performances and one of my favorite movies of the year. Chadwick Boseman in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I think he's the front runner in this category. Anthony Hopkins in The Father, a phenomenal performance. This is one that I don't think is going to happen, and it's a damn shame. This is my Toni Collette nominee this year. It was a movie that came out during the summer. It's being overlooked. Delroy Lindo for Da 5 Bloods. I will jump for joy if he is nominated for Best Actor, but I don't think he's going to be. The movie is getting completely snubbed and overlooked in all of the big guild awards and nominations. There's no momentum behind Delroy Lindo. I'll say this right now. Not only should Delroy Lindo be nominated for Best Actor, he should win the damn thing because he is so good in that movie. He would have my vote. And then for the 5th spot, Steven Yeun for Minari. Most of these are front runners. The big outlier here is Delroy Lindo. It is ludicrous that Delroy Lindo is an outlier at this point because it's even more ludicrous than Toni Collette. Toni Collette was in a horror film that came out in the summer. The Academy doesn't like horror films. A lot of them probably didn't even watch it. The Academy should be watching Da 5 Bloods, and they should be nominating Delroy Lindo. I know it's art, I know it's subjective, but Delroy Lindo's performance for me is as close to objectively one of the best performances of the year that I can possibly think of. But I honestly don't think he's going to get the nomination. Here are the nominees that I think are going to happen. Riz Ahmed, who I nominated, I think will also get nominated. Chadwick Boseman, as I mentioned, I would be shocked if he doesn't get nominated. Anthony Hopkins in The Father, I think, is going to get nominated. Gary Oldman is the name that I think is going to go in above Delroy Lindo. I think he's going to get the nomination for Mank. He's playing a guy, a real Hollywood screenwriter guy. They love these stories about real Hollywood. Again, art is subjective, but I will objectively put Delroy Lindo over again. It's not that Gary Oldman was bad. It's that Delroy Lindo was amazing. And I still think that Gary Oldman is going to get in there above him in the Best Actor race. And then I think that Steven Yeun is going to take that 5th spot. So 4 out of the 5 of my picks actually match to what I think is going to happen on Monday. However, it's a big divergence on the first one. I think that Delroy Lindo is going to get robbed of a Best Actor nomination. Moving on to Best Actress, here are the 5 nominees that I would put up if I were the Academy. First up is Sydney Flanagan from Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. This is another movie that's being overlooked. It was coming out just as theaters were shutting down. Even in a regular year, it would have an uphill battle because it came out earlier in the cycle. The fact that it happened in a very cluttered time when people they didn't have that system of getting links sent to them yet, I think it completely got lost in the shuffle, but I would give her a Best Actress nomination because she deserves it. She is just a shattering performance in that film. Second is Vanessa Kirby from Pieces of a Woman, another shattering performance. If you haven't seen that film, it's tough to get through, but Vanessa Kirby is amazing in it. Frances McDormand in Nomadland, she has been installed as the favorite for quite some time. I talked about this with Toni Collette. Again, a double whammy here. A movie that came out early in 2020, also in a genre that the Academy, by and large, does not recognize in any way, shape, or form, which is the horror genre. Elizabeth Moss for The Invisible Man would be one of my picks for Best Actress. Of all my long shots, this is the one I'd stake just about everything I'd own on. There's not a chance in hell this happens. Elizabeth Moss is not going to get nominated for The Invisible Man. But you know what? This is my little fiefdom, and in this pocket universe, I'm the Academy, so I'm nominating her. And then my 5th pick is Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. Let's move on to the talented actors that I think will get Academy Award nominations for Best Actress. And this is another one that's kind of outside the box. I'm picking Amy Adams for Hillbilly Elegy. This is even a longer shot than Glenn Close. I don't know, this is probably the one I'm the most iffy on, but again, it's a big, flashy, showy role. The Academy loves Amy Adams, and well, they should. Amy Adams is great. She's a wonderful actor. She was not amongst my picks this year, but I just have a hunch that they're going to go for the bigger role and the actor that they've nominated many, many times over. They still won't give her the win. Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is my 2nd projected nomination. In my 3rd spot is Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman. She's, again, they would call her a kind of a borderline person, but I think people that saw the film would be hard-pressed not to nominate her, so I'm going to bank on the fact that she does get that. My 4th pick is Frances McDormand. This would be the upset of upsets if she was not amongst the 5 nominees. And then my 5th pick is Carey Mulligan, who the consensus, I think, has been that she is going to get nominated, but I think that Promising Young Woman is peaking at the right time, much like some other movies like Minari. I think that the buzz is cresting right around nomination time, and I think that that's going to propel her. I'd be surprised if she were not in the top 5. Let's move on to Best Director, and here are the 5 nominees that I would put forward if I were the Academy. First up, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari. At one time, I think a long shot, but again, I think that Minari is building buzz at the right time. Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. She has picked up a lot of Guild nominations. The movie's picked up a lot of nominations. I think that she is now installed as one of the top 5. Spike Lee for The Five Bloods. Again, I don't think he's going to get this, nor do I think the movie is going to get anything, but I would nominate Spike Lee in the directing category. Aaron Sorkin for The Trial of the Chicago 7 is my 4th pick. And then 5th, I would pick Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. And this was so difficult for me to pick because you'll notice movies that I've loved, like Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, and The Father, are not in this category where they've appeared in other categories. And this just comes down to just trying to parse out the directing role, what a director does, I could sub in 5 other names. These are just the 5 that I felt the strongest about. But when I look at, not just the directors, but the movies, juggling tone, juggling the length, the size of the project, the size of the cast. There's so much that goes into directing, and it's hard to parse out, what makes somebody worthy. The honest fact is that anybody who's able to successfully direct a movie deserves an award because it's a really hard thing to do. But these were the 5 that I just found myself drawn to. I don't think that they're the 5, though, that the Academy is going to be drawn to. Here are the 5 that I'm projecting will be nominated next Monday. I do think that Lee Isaac Chung is going to get the nomination for Minari. I think that Emerald Fennell is going to get the nomination for Promising Young Woman. David Fincher for Mank, I think, is going to get the directing nomination. He has been in this category as a projected pick for quite some time. And even though Mank didn't really build the kind of buzz that a lot of people thought that it would, I think that Fincher's still going to ride in to that directing nomination. This is kind of a wild card. A lot of people don't have her amongst the front runners, but I'm picking Regina King for One Night in Miami. I just think the reaction to that movie was pretty strong, even though it doesn't have a huge amount of support across the board. I think the Academy is going to want to recognize Regina King for that film, and because it is full of so many great acting performances. This is the one I'm shakiest on of my projected picks from the Academy, but I just have a hunch that they're going to go with Regina King. And then in my 5th spot, Chloe Zhao, who I think you could say is the front runner to win at this point. She's certainly been picking up most of the awards thus far. I have her as the 5th director that I think the Academy is going to recognize. And finally, we get to the big award, Best Picture, and I do it a little old school. I pick 5 just to make it a little bit harder. This is the way that the Academy used to run, is there were only 5 nominees for Best Picture. Now it's between 5 and 10, depending on how many different votes come in. And that's reflected in my picks of the movies that I think will get nominated. But just to have fun and to make it a little bit tougher, I went with the 5 movies that I would nominate if I were the Academy. The first one is Minari, which is a movie that I love very much. The next one is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. I think very unlikely, almost impossibly likely that this movie is going to get a Best Picture nomination, but it would be in my 5. Nomadland is my 3rd pick as Best Picture. Promising Young Woman is my 4th pick in the Best Picture category. And finally, Sound of Metal would be my 5th pick. So these are the 5 movies that if I had to constrain myself to 5, would nominate for Best Picture. I think they're all 5 great movies. And here's the silver lining to all the stuff that's been going on. The nominees and the big Oscar front-running movies are more accessible than ever because the theatrical windows have been cut, because more are available on streaming services. You can see most or all of these movies right now if you want to. Minari is available right now, premium video on demand, which means you can rent it for about $20. However, by the time the Academy Awards roll around, I'm sure that you'll be able to rent or even buy it for much less money. So Minari will be available at a very affordable price. It's also in select theaters that are open. Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always is available right now on HBO Max. You can stream it. Nomadland is available on Hulu right now. You can stream it at home. Promising Young Woman is available right now for purchase, so you could buy the movie. That rental window is going to be open soon, so you'll be able to rent the movie for a few bucks in the very near future. And then Sound of Metal is streaming on Amazon Prime Video, so you could stream that to your house right now if you have Amazon Prime Video. There are very few good things about what's been going on. One of the only good things is that these movies are more accessible, and if we could just make sure that there's a good market for them to come back to, then perhaps this will be a good hybrid where the bigger ones go to theaters, the smaller ones perhaps have a chance to pick up some revenue and an audience that they might not get otherwise if they were competing amongst the big fish in the theaters. When we talk about what movies I think are going to be nominated for Best Picture, like I said, it's complicated by the fact that you just don't know how many the Academy is going to nominate. I ended up going with 8, which is about the average number they've been nominating in the last several years. And any one of these nominees, if they weren't on my list, probably could have made my picks, because I like all of these movies. It was really just having to pick my 5 favorites, but these are the 8 movies that I've picked as the most likely in my mind to get the Academy Award nominations on Monday: Judas and the Black Messiah, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, there are probably going to be some that aren't on this list that do make it. There may be a few that are on this list that don't make it. That's the real nebulous thing about Best Picture. The important thing is they're all deserving of these slots, and that's also one of the great things about 2020 is through all of the difficulties that there have been, I really do think that there was still a very strong year for movies. There are some great films on this list, and sometimes when I look at the list of the best pictures of the year, where there's one or two on there that I look at and I kind of go like, I don't know about that one. I honestly don't feel that way about any of these movies. Now, the flip side is I'm not like really huge gung-ho on one of them. There's not one that I'm like, yes, that's the one that I'm going to throw everything behind. I think they're all just generally really good. Film fans, if you're looking for stuff to see, even more than most years, watch the Academy Award nominations. All of these movies, especially when you get to Best Director and Best Picture, are really great films and worth your time and attention. What did you think of my nominations? What do you think the Academy Award nominations are going to be? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned here on the channel. We are going to have box office coming up on Monday. The Snyder Cut is coming out next week. I'll have a review of that whenever I'm able to see it. The Academy Award nominations are coming out on Monday as well, so you can be sure that I'm going to have some stuff to say about that. Lots of different things coming up in the next week. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see what else I'm doing, you can check me out on Patreon at patreon.com/Dan Murrell. And you can check out my podcast, All My Movies, on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your audio podcasts. I would love to have you listen to that as I take a movie off my shelf every week and do a deep dive. The nominations for the Academy Awards are going to be very interesting. I'll see you right back here on Monday breaking down all the action. Until then, stay safe.